She showed up at my office just after noon, shoulders curled in, hands clenched tight around a purse she only carries when she needs control. I kept writing, last signature, dated it, then looked up. "You shouldn't be here," I said. 2 weeks ago, she looked me in the eye and said it like a boardroom order. "From now on, I decide when we spend time together. Stop bothering me." She called it space. But I knew the tone. It wasn't distance, it was detachment. The kind people use when they've already moved on. So I nodded and said nothing else. For 14 days, I didn't chase, didn't text, just watched the silence go to work. While she unraveled, I moved accounts, secured assets, let go. Now she's standing here, voice low. "We need to talk." I slid the folder across the desk. Bank tabs, property, divorce papers. One word on the front, filed. She thought silence was surrender. She mistook discipline for doubt. I remember the afternoon she said, "I need space." She didn't ask, she announced it, like a policy change at a company town hall. We were at the kitchen island, sun on the countertop, 2 mugs between us growing cold while she scrolled and nodded at nothing. She kept her back straight, voice even, eyes on a spot over my shoulder like I was an employee, not a partner. I felt that small drop in the stomach older men know, the one you get when a doctor clears his throat before the bad part. I didn't argue. I learned long ago that pushback invites theater. I asked if she was okay. She smiled like a realtor. I rinsed the mugs. We stood in that new silence, unfamiliar and clean. When she left for yoga, I watched the door close with the soft click of a file drawer. Space was granted. The wall arrived with it. I wrote the date down quietly. The next morning felt ordinary on the surface. Coffee burbled, the thermostat clicked, the dog circled his bowl. I ironed a shirt because habit still matters when life doesn't. She moved through the kitchen like a guest in a short stay, polite, careful, hands never resting in one place. We traded calendar notes like coworkers, precise and bloodless. I asked if she'd be home for dinner. "Work dinner," she said, eyes sliding away, lid already down on her phone. I took my travel mug and stood by the window, watching steam lift into the light. My father used to say routine saves men. Maybe, but routine also hides cracks. The coffee tasted fine and told me nothing. I tucked in my shirt, knotted the tie, and caught our reflection in the microwave door. 2 people in focus, no warmth between them. She checked the time. I held the door. Ordinary held. The feeling didn't. Something important had left early. That morning. Patterns announce themselves if you stop arguing with them. By lunch that week, the phone lived face down, the case aligned with the table edge like a ruler. New perfume followed her in, not loud, persistent, a scent that didn't belong to our house. The calendar filled with work dinners she never used to attend. I didn't snoop. Men my age know curiosity can cost you your dignity. Instead, I watched the gaps between words. She laughed at messages that didn't arrive, then frowned at ones that did. She turned her body when she answered calls, the way people shield a lighter in wind. At night, she slept and dreamed out loud. First names, a street I didn't know. I wrote the names down in a spiral notebook I keep for home repairs. The list looked like a parts order. I closed the cover and set it under the toolbox. Things were wobbling. The screws were backing out. I stopped pretending otherwise. I tried the reasonable story first. It's stress. Everyone's stretched thin. People change schedules, not loyalties. I said it out loud while shaving, as if the mirror could notarize the claim. At work, I doubled down on tasks that give a man footing. Email handled, contracts reviewed, numbers neat. Order is a comfort food. Still, the small alarms kept chirping. She forgot a detail only we share. She called me by a nickname she's never used. She checked the door lock twice, leaving, like guilt makes doors jump. I ate dinner alone at the counter and watched a baseball game I didn't care about, the kind fathers watch because the pace feels like breath. The announcer filled the room with innings and averages. My mind filled the spaces with questions I refused to ask. I rinsed the plate, killed the light, and stood in the doorway to the hall. Stress passes. This felt more permanent. The air carried a different weight. That evening she left early, hair done in a way she reserves for pictures that don't include me. I walked her to the door because my father taught me you walk people to doors, even when you're the one being left. She said, "Don't wait up," like a line from a show that ran seasons. I studied her face for the version I fell for. The unguarded look, the relief she used to show when she saw me. It wasn't there. She adjusted her sleeve, checked her phone, then stared past me, and gone. The porch light caught the edge of her perfume and wrote a line through the air. I watched her taillights reach the corner and disappear. The house didn't feel broken. It felt emptied, like a stage between acts. I closed the door and listened to the latch set. If there was a last moment of truth in her eyes, it had happened, and I had missed it. Evenings got longer the way hallways do when a light burns out. The calls thinned. Messages came late or not at all. I learned the difference between busy and gone a long time ago. Busy explains itself. Gone reschedules your worth. I cooked enough for two and wrapped one plate in foil, a courtesy to a version of us that still ate together. She texted running behind, then don't wait up, then nothing. I stacked the mail, balanced the checkbook, folded towels straight from the dryer because warm order is better than cold worry. The house answered only in small sounds. The ice maker, the water heater, the clock that forgot how to hurry. I told myself adults have seasons like weather. You don't file a storm report for every cloud. But the forecast didn't change. I turned off the porch light and felt the dark settle where conversation used to live. That's when I knew the evening was no longer ours. The new perfume arrived before she did. Amber Noir, a name that tries to sell midnight in a bottle. It wasn't ours. Our life smells like coffee, sawdust from weekend fixes, and the soap she steals from hotels. This was velvet and closed doors. It announced itself in elevators, lingered on the passenger seat, clung to sweaters we didn't buy together. I didn't interrogate a scent. Men my age know you don't cross-examine air. But memory keeps a ledger. First time I noticed, I shrugged. Second time, I filed it. By the fifth, it was a pattern with a headline. She asked if I liked it. I said it was different because truth has to pass HR now. She smiled, relieved I didn't call it what it was. Evidence. That night, the house kept a faint trace of someone else's story. I opened a window and let the cool move in. The smell left. The feeling didn't. Some things air can't clear. I picked a neutral time. Morning, good light, clean counter. "Work okay?" I asked, like a man testing a step he doesn't trust. She nodded too quickly, said busy quarter, then over-explained one detail and skipped three that matter. Eyes don't lie, they just look elsewhere. Hers did. She reached for her phone the way a person reaches for a railing when the stairs feel wrong. I let the silence do the arithmetic. I could ask follow-ups, invite a debate, run the old loop where raised voices pretend to solve what fear creates. But I've learned negotiation can't fix a vanishing act. She kissed my cheek like a memo and left. I stood in the doorway, listening to the garage door roll down, the way you listen for a diagnosis after the word, however. The house exhaled. I poured coffee I didn't need and watched the surface stop moving. Some questions don't want answers. They want courage. I wasn't ready yet. At lunch, I opened an email. Subject line, us. I wrote like a careful contractor. Here are the cracks. Here's the timeline. Here's what I'm willing to repair. I deleted it. Wrote again, shorter, simpler, kinder. Deleted that too. I wasn't trying to control her. I was trying to understand the invoice, what we owed, what we'd already paid. Men in my bracket keep receipts, for appliances, for promises. My cursor blinked like a heart monitor for a patient who won't speak. I tried voice notes, then erased them because microphones make truth sound theatrical. I settled on a single sentence. Are we okay? Then I stared at it until the period felt like a dare. I closed the laptop without sending. Understanding has to be invited. You can't trespass and call it love. I walked outside, trimmed a hedge, swept the steps, and let sweat be the explanation I could trust. The drafts were honest. My silence was more so. That night she fell asleep fast, the way people do when they've already spent their energy elsewhere. I watched the rise and fall of her breathing and tried to find the rhythm I used to match without thinking. I used to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear and feel chosen. I kept my hands to myself. The bedroom light cut a clean line across the dresser, dividing what we share from what we pretend. I could have woken her and asked for a State of the Union. Instead, I counted what still worked. The ceiling fan, the mortgage auto pay, the habit of turning off the hall light. Practical comforts for a heart that doesn't buy poetry tonight. Somewhere between her inhale and the clock's soft click, the question came without drama or lightning. When did we stop being us? I didn't say it out loud. The room had enough truth in it. I closed my eyes and let the question stand. Rain pinned the evening to the windows, steady and patient, the way a truth waits its turn. I stood by the living room glass, lights off, the house lit only by street glow and the television's soft blue from a game I wasn't watching. Headlights slid across the wall, then drifted to the driveway, lingering like a decision that didn't want to leave. Water ran down the pane, stretched and fell, and somewhere in that slow movement, the window turned into a mirror. I could see the porch, the car, the outline of the passenger seat. I didn't lean in. I didn't step back. I let the glass do the talking. The wipers kept time. Left, right, proof, doubt. I thought about calling her, then realized the phone would only add sound, not sense. The house felt like a witness who'd taken an oath. The rain kept the neighborhood honest, and the window kept me from lying to myself. In the reflection, the passenger door opened. She shifted closer, a shape I knew by posture alone. The driver turned. I didn't know his face yet, but certainty doesn't wait for introductions. Then came the tell, her hand at the back of his neck, the tilt, the kiss. Not a mistake, not a goodbye. Familiar, practiced. The kind of move two people repeat until it's theirs. I didn't flinch. I watched. The car fogged in a circle where their breath met the glass. Two halos that didn't belong in my home. I heard the announcer on the TV say something about a comeback, and I almost laughed. The driver pulled away a fraction, and I saw him more clearly. Clean jaw, restless eyes. Ryan Cole, a name from Small Talk, now heavy as hardware. The wipers swept once more, clearing the pain, leaving me with a scene I could never unsee. Proof doesn't ask permission. It arrives finished. People talk about heartbreak like a smash. Glass, sirens, a loud "somebody help me" inside your chest. Mine didn't break. It set. It went from soft to solid the way a foundation cures in silence. I felt the shift like a carpenter feels level, bubble-centered, ready to take weight. Clarity hurts less than lies. Lies are noise you have to fight. Clarity is quiet and cold, and it holds. I didn't hunt for excuses or assemble a case. I didn't scroll for history or count timestamps like beads. I stood there and let the truth arrive without ceremony. The room grew simple: a couch, a lamp, a window, a man deciding not to drown in a shallow pool. Outside, the car idled, then eased away, tailing a route I didn't need to learn. Inside, I realized anger would spend me, and I was done offering fuel. I didn't forgive. I didn't perform. I adjusted to the temperature of what was real. I stayed still until the taillights made the corner and dissolved into the rain. The house exhaled. I clicked off the TV, watched the room return to itself. No crowd, no commentary, just furniture and a floor that needed mopping. I turned on the kitchen light because good work happens there. I wiped the counter, stacked the mail, lined up the pens, ordinary tasks that stop a man from telling himself stories. I didn't pace. I didn't pour a drink. I didn't draft a message meant to make me sound bigger than the moment. I let the clock talk, second by second, honest and small. The refrigerator hummed. The faucet dripped once and then thought better of it. I opened the notebook where I keep house numbers and passwords and wrote a single line. Seen enough. I closed it gently, like putting a lid on something still warm. Then I stood with my hands on the sink and chose stillness over noise. Morning came like it always does, indifferent. I made coffee, scrambled eggs, buttered toast because routine keeps a man from bleeding out. She walked in a few minutes late, hair damp from weather or shower, I couldn't tell. I slid a plate across without comment. She thanked me like neighbors do over borrowed tools. We ate with the kind of manners that used to impress my parents. Chew, swallow, speak after. Only we didn't speak. Her phone lit up, face down, Mine stayed in my pocket. I watched her not meet my eyes and realized I didn't need the nightly explanation, the roundabout confession, the soft focus apology. I needed a plan. When she rinsed her plate, I rinsed mine. When she reached for her keys, I reached for my day. She said, "Long one today." I nodded. "Same." The front door closed. The house listened. I wiped the table, folded the towel, and felt the decision settle. I would act, not ask. I learned something old that week. Silence isn't a pause. It's a tool. Guilty people hear it louder than shouting. Noise gives them handholds, arguments to twist, apologies to borrow, scenes to rewrite. Silence leaves them alone with their own words. I kept the house ordinary on purpose. Trash out, lawn trimmed, coffee set the night before. Discipline calms the blood and clears the math. I answered what needed answers and let the rest drift. When she tried small talk, I declined gently, the way you pass on dessert after a hard diagnosis. My phone stayed on the table but quiet. I returned to lifting, simple sets, steady reps, because weight tells the truth. The stillness made room for thinking I hadn't done in years. What do I want? What do I protect? What do I no longer fund with my time? By Friday, the silence had a shape. It wasn't sulking. It was structure. And it was starting to work. Saturday morning, I opened a legal pad and wrote 3 lines. Accounts, contracts, insurance. That was the plan. Not a speech, not a threat. I listed everything with dates like I was prepping for tax season. Joint checking, savings, brokerage, car titles, home policy, health, subscriptions that auto-bled small amounts every month because convenience is expensive. I wasn't hiding money or playing games, I was ending confusion. Older men know the difference. I pulled statements, set alerts, changed a few passwords I was already responsible for, and scheduled meetings with people whose job is to keep things clean. I moved slowly, carefully, the way you carry a pane of glass. I didn't leave notes on the counter or pick a fight in the hallway. The plan had one audience, my future. When I felt my pulse climb, I stepped outside, breathed cold air, and came back to the list. Paper settled me. Ink told me where I stood. The plan held. I spent the afternoon in quiet clicks. Direct deposits rerouted to my personal account. Long due, well within policy. Savings separated with signatures I already had standing for. Auto-pays paused, then assigned to the right owner. The house is a system. I just traced the pipes. Where the law required notices, I sent them. Where courtesy helped, I gave it. No drama, no surprises, no sudden drains. I took pictures of documents and stored them in a folder labeled plainly, because truth doesn't need camouflage. I called the insurance agent I've used for a decade and confirmed coverage in my name. He asked if everything was okay. "Just housekeeping," I said, and it was. When I was done, I logged out, shut the laptop, and felt the air change. Not victory, not revenge, control. Like tightening a loose hinge and hearing the door finally close without rattle. If love was a budget, I had stopped overdrafting. The account would not go negative again. She noticed before she understood. "You've been quiet," she said at dinner, testing the edge of the table with her fingertips. I cut my steak, set the knife down, and met her eyes. Perfect. I didn't add a sermon. Silence doesn't need a backup band. She asked about my day. I gave her the version for neighbors. Work was work. Traffic was traffic. She floated the word us like a balloon she wanted me to catch. I let it go. I cleared the plates, ran hot water, watched the steam rise. The ordinary felt holy. Soap, heat, stainless steel surrendering its spots. She waited for flare-ups that never came. Anger can be steered. Stillness can't. I dried the last glass and set it upside down on the rack. She told me she might be late tomorrow, voice casual but eyes measuring. "Do what you need to do," I said. I meant it. The room held. The line didn't break. The quiet did the talking. By midweek, the house had changed without moving a chair. Drawers closed softer. Doors didn't slam. The TV stayed off after 9. I started sleeping through. No 2 a.m. negotiations with ghosts. She felt it, the way you feel a current when you step too close to a fence. Her questions got shorter. Her laugh came late or not at all. She hovered in doorways, then retreated, like sound checks before a show that wouldn't start. I kept to my lanes: work, gym, quiet dinners that tasted like decisions you can live with. When she asked if I was okay, I gave her the truth adults can handle. I'm clear. She nodded like she understood, but clarity isn't contagious. The dog chose my side of the couch and stayed there. The clock kept honest time. A new rule set was in place, and nobody had to sign it. That night I turned off the lamp and heard something I'd missed for years: peace. By Sunday she tried a reset. Dinner at 6, candles we never use, flowers standing at attention like a polite apology. She cooked the dish she knows I can't mess up with praise: roast chicken, pan gravy, potatoes that hold the fork. She played old songs we used to claim as ours, turned low, like music could file for custody. I set the table, poured water, and let the room be as gentle as it wanted. Small talk came in on tiptoe: neighbors, weather, a sale at the store. She asked about my week, and I gave her facts you can check: no opinions, no forecasts. When the oven timer rang, she jumped as if truth had walked in. I carved, she plated, and we ate like grown-ups who remember their manners. She kept glancing at my hands, waiting for the reach, the touch, the old reflex. It didn't come. The flowers were beautiful. I let them be beautiful and nothing else. I thanked her for dinner the way a man thanks a nurse: grateful, controlled, not asking for more care than needed. I stacked plates, ran warm water, and let the steam do the small talking. She stepped beside me, shoulder almost touching, and for a second my body remembered an old script. I turned off the faucet and dried my hands. "Good meal," I said, meaning it. She held still, waiting for a hand at the small of her back, the casual connection that used to bridge any distance. I didn't offer it, not to punish, to be honest. Touch says, we're okay. We weren't. She moved a vase an inch, then moved it back, a quiet argument with gravity. I wiped the counter in steady lines until the cloth came up clean. Courtesy stayed. Contact didn't. She looked at me, testing for anger in my face. There wasn't any. There was only the space I finally respected. At bedtime, habit waited at the doorway like a dog that still believes. I brushed my teeth, folded my shirt, set my watch on the dresser. She paused by the lamp and searched my eyes for the line that used to close the day. I love you. I let the room breathe. Some words mean less when they're used to patch a leak. Silence held, not as punishment, but as policy. I pulled the covers, offered the pillow, kept my lane. The quiet wasn't cold. It was firm, the way a good mattress reminds you you've got a spine. She tried a side conversation about weekend plans. I said we'd see. The lamp clicked off. The ceiling fan made its steady case for calm. She waited another beat and then rolled away, the mattress lifting under a weight I knew by heart. That sentence did not leave my mouth. It stayed where real things live, proved first, spoken later, or not at all. The next morning she watched me like a firefighter watches a door, listening for heat, ready to jump. She made a comment designed to catch, something sideways about my schedule and how convenient silence can be. I poured coffee, set the mug down without a rattle, and met the remark with what men learn after 40: restraint. I didn't take the bait, didn't build a scene she could surf. I've got a full day, I said. True, complete, non-negotiable. She waited for the old flash, raised voice, fast breath, the theater we rehearsed too many times. It didn't arrive. She frowned, then searched my face for the crack where manipulation slips through. She found stone. Calm isn't absence. It's armor fitted to the body you finally respect. I grabbed my keys, kissed the dog, and held the door for her out of muscle memory. She didn't move. We should talk, she said. We will, I answered, when there's something to say. By evening, I understood what had changed. Power wasn't in the speech I could deliver, or the evidence I could stack. Power was in the choice to let reality stand up on its own legs without my coaching. I made dinner for one and ate at the counter, shoulders easy, feet flat, posture you learn after years of back pain and bad chairs. She hovered, hoping for a cue. I didn't give one. I answered the few questions that mattered with simple nouns and verbs. I left the rest for the room to process. The house felt honest finally. No echo, no performance, no sudden courtroom rising to all rise. She tried one last pass. Are you mad? I shook my head. No, I'm done pretending. The words landed without echo. She stepped back like the floor had shifted. It had. Not under her. Under me. I turned off the light, and the quiet didn't threaten anymore. It protected. That was the difference. A mutual friend called, the kind who hates being the messenger. She cleared her throat and said, "She's been crying at Ryan's." The words landed like groceries you didn't order. I thanked her for letting me know and didn't add fuel. Older men learn to keep conversations short when nothing good can grow from them. I stood at the sink, let the water run cold, and thought about all the late-night scenes I wouldn't be acting in. If you step out of the triangle, it collapses on its own. My friend tried to offer context, something about mixed signals and doors closing. I said, "I wish her well," and meant it the way you mean it when a storm passes your street but floods the next one over. After the call, I dried my hands, took the trash to the curb, and felt the air move through the quiet like a spine straightening. News received. No response required. That was enough. I didn't ask follow-ups. I didn't stalk social feeds or pull threads just to prove what I already knew. I listened, then put the phone face down and went back to the basics that keep a man steady. Mow the lawn, oil the squeaky hinge on the laundry door, fix the loose outlet that's bothered me for months. Doing repairs reminded me of my grandfather. Measure twice, cut once, and don't make a project louder than it needs to be. The dog followed me room to room, content with the new routine where nobody walks on eggshells. I left space for silence to finish the job it had started. Not silence as punishment, silence as boundary. People tell you gaps must be filled. Experience says otherwise. The less I hunted for information, the clearer things became. By dinner, the house felt aligned. Tools in the right drawer, thoughts in the right box. I could hear myself think again. That was the win. She texted first, short, careful, like a toe testing cold water. Then came the calls, spaced out at times of day when I used to be available. Each ring lit the screen with her name and I let it pass. Not to punish, to protect the progress. Boundaries fail one quick talk at a time. I set the phone to do not disturb and left a short list of numbers allowed through work, my mother, the shop where the car's being serviced. I took a walk around the block, nodded to the neighbor who always waves from his porch, and let my heartbeat do the math my mind keeps complicating. When I got back, another message waited. Can we meet? I put the phone in the drawer where we keep batteries and tape. There's a kind of adult peace that shows up when you stop chasing closure and start practicing it. The silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. Every minute without noise used to feel like loss. Now it felt like treatment. A clean cut heals better than a jagged one, and I was done tearing at the wound. I made simple dinners, nothing with 12 steps, grilled chicken, a salad that didn't pretend to be a parade. I read a few pages before bed, not to be smarter, just to be quieter. The urge to answer back still knocked, like muscle memory reaching for a switch in a dark room. I let the knock fade. If guilt came, and it tried, I asked it for evidence. It brought none. Adults don't need to rehearse pain to prove they're kind. I did the dishes, wiped the counter, and let the clock have the last word. Somewhere around 10, I realized I hadn't braced for footsteps or rehearsed a speech in my head. The cut was clean now. It hurt less because I'd chosen it. Relief followed like a pulse settling. That week I slept. Not the fitful kind with negotiations at 2 a.m., but the steady kind you get after putting tools away and turning off the shop light. I woke once to rain and didn't get up to check anything. The doors were locked, the ledger balanced, the mind finally off duty. In the morning, my back felt like it remembered how to be a back. I made coffee without thinking, watched the sun push a line across the table, and didn't rehearse the day as a defense. I checked the list. Bills paid, emails answered, body moved. Nothing dramatic, everything adult. She called again around lunch. The phone stayed on the counter, face down, quiet as a folded towel. I ate, cleaned up, and drove to the hardware store for sandpaper because some surfaces improve with a patient hand. That night, I set the alarm, turned off the lamp, and fell asleep inside a sentence I hadn't said in years. I'm okay. The office door clicked and drifted open like it had changed its mind. She stood there, Emily, shoulders tight, color wrong, eyes searching for the version of me she used to steer. Noon light flattened the room, left no place for drama to hide. I didn't rush to meet her. I finished the line I was writing, set the pen down perpendicular to the pad, and let the clock do a full second before I said anything. The hallway noise went quiet the way offices know when a conversation isn't for them. She took one step in, then another, and closed the door with the heel of her hand like the sound might hurt less that way. I noticed the purse again, the control purse. It looked heavier today. "Jack," she said, voice catching on the J. I leaned back, not a show, just a man who understands his chair. She waited for an invitation. I didn't offer one. The room chose me. "You've been ignoring me," she said, and I watched the sentence try to stand up straight. I let it finish walking to the middle of the room before I answered. "I've been working," I said, and turned a page, not to dismiss her, but to remind both of us that life hadn't stopped just because noise had. She searched my face for the old tells, jaw set, breath short, heat rising. She found nothing she could use. The blinds cast even lines across the desk, making order out of light. "You can't just cut me off, Jack." I let the word "can't" sit there until it heard itself. "We can talk," I said, "when there's something worth saying." She flinched, not at volume, but at boundaries spoken without apology. The office air felt different with her inside it, crowded with rehearsed lines and exits that didn't work here. My phone buzzed. I didn't check it. Ignoring is childish. Choosing is adult. I'd made my choice. She tried to close the distance with a softer voice, the one that used to slide under my guard. "I miss you." I held the line. "You made the rules," I said, level. "I'm just following them." The sentence went out like a level beam and stayed true. She blinked, confused that calm could carry weight. "From now on, I decide when we spend time," I repeated, the exact wording she chose, the day she called detachment space. Her mouth opened, then stalled. We both looked at the chair across from me. I didn't point to it. I didn't play host. The folder on my desk sat quiet, tabbed and clean, a different kind of conversation waiting its turn. She folded her arms, then unfolded them, searching for a script that fit this room and this version of me. "So that's it?" she asked. "It's clarity," I said. The clock marked one more second. It sounded like agreement from something bigger than us. Her shoulders dipped, then gave. She sat, carelessly at first, then as if the chair might file a report. Tears started the way leaks do, small, then suddenly unignorable. "I made a mistake," she said, words breaking where excuses usually glue. She waited for my rescue, the reach for tissues, the old instinct to close the gap, to suggest we can fix what isn't broken but gone. I kept my hands flat on the desk, not cold, steady. She tried again, assembled fragments. "It was never serious. I was confused. I didn't think you'd..." and stopped when she heard that last part. Didn't think I'd what? Choose myself? Read the room? Finish the sentence she started 2 weeks ago? I let the silence hold her confession without cross-examining it. We both understood the truth doesn't need me to drag it into the light. It was already standing there, easy to see. She took a sharp breath, the kind that hurts. I didn't move. "No," I said, and the word landed like a gavel in a courtroom with no spectators. "You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice." The difference changed the air. Mistakes ask for erasers. Choices ask for consequences. I opened the folder and turned it so she could read without reaching. Bank tabs, property division, property, the petition. Dates that told their own story. The week I stopped talking was the week I started acting. She covered her mouth with her hand like she'd just understood a math problem that refused to round in her favor. "Jack, please." I shook my head once. "I'm not angry," I said, and I wasn't. "I'm finished." The room steadied under it. No shouting, no scene, just a door out of a place we built and left. I stood, not to tower, just to end the meeting. I walked to the door and held it open the way you do when you finally remember your manners, for yourself. I reached for the manila folder like a man reaches for a level, something that tells the truth without raising its voice. The tab was labeled in plain ink, no code names, no drama. I set it on the desk between us, square to the edge, and let it sit there a beat longer than comfort allows. Paper has a way of cooling a room. She watched my hands, looking for tremors, for evidence that this was theater. It wasn't. I'd spent a week choosing verbs that don't wobble. Review, verify, sign. The hallway hummed with office life, phones, printers, a laugh that didn't belong to us. I slid the folder forward exactly the distance a handshake would travel, and stopped. "What is it?" she asked, already knowing. "Clarity," I said. I didn't raise my chin or my volume. I just gave the moment its paperwork. She reached for the tab with careful fingertips, the way people touch hot pans they still hope are cool. The room waited. She opened the folder and the first page did what first pages do. It named the problem without decoration. Petition for dissolution. Behind it, the ledger of our life. Accounts, balances, titles, insurance, utilities that once felt too small to mention and now mattered because adults close loops. My signatures sat where they belonged, neat, dated, witnessed. Her eyes moved like someone reading a foreign language they used to know. She stopped at the property division, traced a line with her finger, then flipped to the schedule for notices. "You did all this?" Not accusation, inventory. "Yes." I kept my voice steady, the kind used for directions and weather. This wasn't punishment, it was alignment. She turned one more page and saw the stamps. Filed. The word wears its own uniform. The clatter from the copier outside clicked once, twice, as if to underline the point. She returned to the first page and blinked hard, trying to soften text that doesn't soften. Paper held. "You already filed," she said, almost not saying it at all, like a person reporting an incident after it's over, voice low to keep the sentence from waking up. I didn't answer right away. I gave her the grace of silence, the same tool that brought us here. She looked at the signatures again, searching for loopholes or hesitations. There weren't any. Behind her, the glass door showed a faint reflection, two people standing on opposite sides of a line they both drew, just not on the same day. "How long?" she asked, needing a number the way people need a railing on stairs they don't trust. "Long enough to know," I said. The room didn't argue, neither did the pages. She closed her eyes the way you do when you're bracing for a dentist's drill, wishing the sound would be the worst part. It wasn't. The worst part was that nothing in the room lifted to help her, not even me. "Last week," I said, and the calendar on the wall backed me up. It was right there, boxes ticked, meetings kept, a private appointment circled in pencil that no one else would notice. "You told me you decide when we spend time," I added, not cruel, just exact. I listened. She shook her head once, as if trying to clear a radio station that kept playing the wrong song. "I didn't mean," she started, then ran out of road. Meaning is cheap after impact. I pointed to the timeline stapled to the back. Notice sent, accounts separated cleanly, no surprises, no games. Adults can finish a thing without setting it on fire. She reached for the chair and didn't sit, the body undecided about what it deserves. I stayed still because movement offers hope and I had none to sell. We both looked at the date again. It didn't blink. A week ago, I'd chosen peace. Today, I was simply honoring it. She didn't speak. Not the throat-clearing kind, not the bargaining kind, not the "we can fix this" that couples say when they mean delay the bill. The quiet landed with substance, like furniture set in the right room. For the first time since this broke, the silence wasn't a weapon or a message. It was the truth getting a chair. She closed the folder halfway and left her hand on it, palm flat, as if pressure might reverse ink. It won't. I let the moment stretch until we could both hear the ordinary world again. The AC vent, a stapler 5 desks over, a delivery guy laughing into his headset. She opened her mouth, then closed it, and in that small motion, I saw the choice she wasn't making. More noise. I nodded once, grateful for her restraint, grateful for mine. "Okay," she said finally. Not agreement, not approval, just reality arriving. The quiet stayed. It didn't accuse me, it didn't comfort her, it finished the sentence. I walked out of the office into clean daylight, not dramatic, just bright enough to show dust I hadn't noticed on my sleeves. The door clicked behind me with the finality of a sentence that doesn't need a comma. I didn't look back. Looking back invites a speech. The lot smelled like hot asphalt in last week's rain. I breathed in, longer than usual, and felt a piece of me fall into place. No applause, just alignment. My phone buzzed with reminders about things that still mattered. A client call tomorrow, a dentist appointment I'd rescheduled twice, tires due for rotation. Ordinary life waited, patient and unexcited, which was exactly what I needed. I unlocked the truck, set the folder on the passenger seat like a passenger that doesn't argue, and adjusted the mirror, not for traffic, but for truth. The building stood where it always had. I was the thing that moved. When the engine started, the day kept going. So did I. That night, the house sounded like itself for the first time in months. No pacing, no staged conversations, no small explosions disguised as jokes. Just air moving through vents and the curtain lifting like a slow breath. I walked room to room without hunting. The empty spaces didn't accuse me, they reported. I noticed what we'd ignored. A loose doorknob, a bulb going yellow, a photo frame tilted since December. I straightened it, then put it face down, not from anger, but from honesty. I cooked a plain dinner and ate it at the counter where we used to huddle over takeout, our elbows touching because the table felt too official. After dishes, I turned off the kitchen light and listened for anything that might argue with the quiet. Nothing did. The silence that once felt like a dare now felt like a promise. Wind touched the curtain again, softer this time, and I finally understood. The house had been waiting on me. I packed the way older men do, deliberate, labeling boxes with a thick marker because future me deserves clarity, a duffel for clothes, a banker's box for papers that prove the life I lived and the bills I paid. I set the spare keys on the counter where we used to line up holiday dishes, and the metal looked small against all that countertop. I kept a few anchors, the coffee mug my father used when he visited, the hammer with my initials burnt into the handle, a postcard we never mailed from a trip that wasn't a mistake, just over. I didn't rush to clear every shelf. A clean exit isn't a sprint, it's a measured walk. I left a note for myself on the fridge: change address, cancel lawn service, call the utility. Domestic courage. Before bed, I placed the main key ring in the bowl by the door and felt the message in the gesture. Access surrendered, dignity kept. In the morning, I opened one more drawer and found a pile of old ticket stubs, receipts from places that used to mean something, and a cufflink missing its partner. I sorted without bitterness. Memory is just inventory when the story ends. Here's the concert where we shouted the chorus. Here's the restaurant that got too loud for us to hear each other. Here's a hotel pen we didn't need but took anyway. I kept a few, not as souvenirs, but as records. I threw the rest away because not everything earns shelf space in a smaller life. I wiped the drawer, closed it, and waited for grief to argue. It yawned and rolled over. I made the bed, tightened the sheet like a corner turned in a hospital, and looked around the room one last time. The weight I expected didn't fall. The light changed across the wall, and that was all. I walked out carrying less than I brought in. I took a walk through the neighborhood because sidewalks make decisions easier to live with. A couple argued softly by their mailbox and waved when they noticed me. A kid shot baskets alone and counted his own rebounds out loud, a small faith I envied. I passed the barber shop where I've been talking about getting a different cut for 5 years and decided I finally might. The air had that early evening honesty, sprinklers ticking, someone grilling, a radio far off playing a song from a year I can still name. My chest felt light enough to take a deeper breath without checking if I was allowed. I didn't rehearse speeches or practice closure in the mirror of a storefront. I just walked. At the corner I stopped, not because I had to, but because I wanted to mark the spot where the old route ended. Then I turned, chose a street I don't usually take, and went. The difference held. The light did too. I thought back to the old routine, begging for 5 more minutes of attention, arguing the same point like it might finally bloom if I watered it with enough words. I used to defend myself to someone who'd already left the courtroom. Not now. I don't audition for the part of kept man, and I don't chase a door that closes itself. The relief wasn't a rush, it was a settling, like a bookshelf leveled after years of wobble. I remembered the most embarrassing lines I said out of fear and let them pass through without flinching. Age helps. You realize you don't have to win a debate to keep your dignity, you just have to leave the stage. I made coffee, folded a shirt, and smiled at how simple adult life can be when you stop explaining it. I used to ask for proof I mattered. Now I carry it. The proof is quiet. It sleeps well and gets up early. Silence didn't fix her. It fixed my aim. Love can be good, but it can't carry someone who wants off the ride. I used to think more effort would pull us back to center. Date nights, weekend trips, the truce you buy with flowers that wilt by Thursday. The quiet stripped the tricks away. It left me with one question. Do my actions match my standards? When the answer became yes, the room got bigger. I heard myself think without interruption or coaching from a person who wasn't listening. Men my age know the math. Time spent pleading is time not invested in the life you're responsible for. Silence made the ledger legible. It showed me where I was giving credit to someone who paid in excuses. I didn't slam any doors. I just stopped oiling the ones that led nowhere. She wanted space. I learned how to live in it. Turns out it's healthier when you furnish it yourself. People mistake silence for retreat. It isn't. It's discipline, not a sulk, a standard. I decided my voice is for building. Contracts, yes. Apologies I don't owe, no. Saying less cut out the parts of me that sounded like an ad, selling hope I couldn't deliver. I kept the rituals that keep a man square. Lift, write, work, rest. When anger knocked, I let routine answer the door. A calm schedule is harder to argue with than a loud speech. I noticed how many times I used to fill gaps with promises, how often I'd put padding around truth to make it easier to swallow. Not anymore. I set clear terms with myself. If it's real, it holds up without decoration. If it's not, silence exposes it. The discipline spread. Money got cleaner. Sleep got deeper. Friends I trust moved closer. The soundtrack in my head quieted to a hum I could live with. That wasn't loss. That was maintenance. I expected to feel bitter. I didn't. Gratitude arrived like a good neighbor, unannounced but welcome, carrying tools instead of gossip. I was grateful the truth showed up before the years got heavier. Grateful I didn't break myself trying to fix what wasn't mine to repair. I even felt grateful for the awkward dinners and the long nights because they tuned my ear. You don't forget the pitch of a lie once you've heard it long enough. Work felt cleaner. Food tasted like food again, not comfort. I called my brother back. I scheduled that checkup. I tightened the loose screws on the back steps and stopped postponing small mercies. Gratitude isn't a speech. It's how you put your day together. It's the way you leave the counter wiped and the key where it belongs. Standing in the kitchen, I raised a glass of water to no one and meant it. The storm moved on. The house stood. That was enough. Revenge likes an audience. Peace doesn't need one. I used to craft lines in my head. Things I'd say if given the perfect moment, perfect crowd, perfect angle. The perfect moment never comes. Life offers errands instead. So I did the errands and noticed something simple. My best answer was a life she couldn't edit. Bills paid, sleep steady, back straight. I didn't post a lesson. I lived one. The quiet kept teaching. Don't buy battles you can't resell. Don't set yourself on fire to keep a lukewarm room warm. Don't mistake volume for victory. I started enjoying small wins that don't clap, finishing a book, nailing the steak temperature, calling my mother first. When friends asked how I was, I told the truth. Better. No footnotes, no pitch. Some days the past knocks. I let it. It gets bored and leaves. The best revenge? It wasn't a scene. It was breakfast, a plan, and a day that ran on time. I signed the lease, took the keys, and stepped into an apartment that smelled like fresh paint and possibility. One bedroom, good light, floors that tell the truth when you sweep them. I opened every cabinet just to learn the new map. Plates here, glasses there, the drawer that always sticks a little. I set up the bed first because sleep is a foundation. Then the coffee maker, because mornings deserve respect. I didn't decorate. I arranged. A chair by the window, a lamp that doesn't buzz, a rug that keeps the echo from sounding like loneliness. I called the utility company, changed my address, and watched my name appear in places it hadn't lived alone in years. The sun moved across the wall like a slow handshake. I didn't fill the silence with music or phone calls. I let the room introduce itself. When evening came, I locked the door and knew exactly what the click meant. Mine. The first morning in the new place, I made coffee for one the way a careful man tunes a radio. Slow, slight adjustments until the signal comes clean. Measured grounds. Water just off the boil. Mug warmed, not because anyone's watching, but because details keep you honest when nobody is. I stood by the window and took that first sip that tells you where you are in life. It was strong, a little too bold, and exactly right. I didn't reach for a second cup to fill a space. I let the one cup be enough. I wrote a short list on a yellow pad: trash bags, light bulbs, a plant that won't give up if I miss a day. I didn't text anyone to announce the new routine. Grown men don't need a committee to bless simple dignity. The dog settled at my feet like he'd been briefed on the new plan. Steam rose and disappeared. I didn't chase it. I learned from it. That afternoon I played the music we used to claim, half expecting a bruise to wake up. It didn't. The songs sounded like themselves. Guitars still bending, drums still sure, words landing where they always did. The difference was my listening. I didn't assign every lyric to us. I let the singer have his life and kept mine. I wiped down the counters to a rhythm I didn't have to force. I hung 2 frames, my father at a campsite, my brother and me with fish that seemed bigger then. History that feeds, not bleeds. I tried a playlist we never shared and found a track that fit the room, a simple piano line that knows how to leave space. I sat in the chair, looked at the city doing what cities do, and felt no urge to send a link to prove I'd moved on. Healing rarely posts. It shows up as a body sitting still and a mind not reaching for a ghost. A week later, I caught myself smiling at a memory that used to cut. We were at a roadside diner 2 summers back, arguing about directions, then laughing because the pie arrived wearing too much whipped cream. I remembered the laugh, not the argument. That felt new. I didn't translate the moment into a lesson or a warning. I let it be a postcard from a place I'm not moving back to. I went for a run that ended at the little market on the corner, bought oranges heavy with promise, and walked home without making it a metaphor. The new place smelled like citrus and clean laundry. I peeled one at the sink and let the rind oil the air. The dog sneezed and wagged his tail like a critic offering 4 stars. I wiped my hands on a towel and noticed my shoulders had dropped. Not surrender, release. The smile stayed. No permission needed. No audience required. That night I opened a notebook I'd been avoiding, the one with the heavy pages that ask for honest ink. I wrote a single sentence, slow enough to hear it as it landed. Thank you for teaching me the sound of silence. Not sarcasm, not a barb. Gratitude with edges rounded by time. The silence that once felt like a cliff had become a floor I could stand on. I listed the small proofs: 8 hours of sleep, bills paid on time, a calendar with more white space than warnings. I underlined 2 words: steady and free. I closed the book and didn't hide it. It went on the shelf where I keep useful things: tape measure, extra batteries, a flashlight that works when you need it. I turned off the lamp, checked the lock, and stood in the dark long enough to realize I wasn't waiting for anything. The room breathed. I breathed back. The sentence held. So did I. I didn't look for her. I didn't rehearse what I'd say if we crossed paths by accident at the store or the gas pump. Closure used to feel like a form you had to file with another person's signature. Turns out, silence stamps its own approval. I kept my days honest: work on time, bills paid, shoes by the door, keys in the bowl. The old urge to check her pages, to audit a life that no longer includes me, faded the way a headache does after water and rest. When friends asked for updates, I told them the true one. I'm good. No subtext, no bait. If she wanted a meeting, the calendar wouldn't have room for what noise asks you to sacrifice. I didn't hate her. I didn't chase a new story to prove a point. I let quiet finish the sentence we dragged for miles. Some endings you attend, others you obey. This one arrived signed and dated. Peace used to feel like an empty room. Now it feels furnished. Solid chair, steady table, light that lands where it should. I noticed it in small ways first. The breath that didn't hitch, the appetite that returned, the laugh that didn't need an audience. I stopped narrating my days to imaginary juries. I cooked because I was hungry, slept because I was tired, called my brother because I wanted to hear his voice. Freedom isn't loud, it's reliable. It shows up as a body that doesn't brace for a door slam, a mind that doesn't budget for chaos. I caught myself humming in the car, not to fill space, but because the song fit the morning. The past still knocks sometimes. I let it stand on the porch. If it behaves, I offer water. If it doesn't, the lock works. Peace didn't make me soft. It made me clear. What I keep now keeps me back. That's the trade I honor. I sit by the window most mornings with coffee that tastes like the first day of a good week. Sun lays a square on the table, and for once the empty space inside it doesn't accuse me. It invites. I watch the city wake, delivery trucks, a runner who beats the heat, a kid pulling a backpack that seems too big for his day. I don't script what comes next. I keep it simple. Show up, move your body, do the work, tell the truth. The dog sighs like an old friend who trusts my schedule again. I think about revenge sometimes, the movie version. Then I look at the clock running on time and the plants I haven't killed, and the quiet that answers when I call it by name. Fire burns out. Peace holds. I take another sip, let the warmth settle, and choose the sentence I believe. Revenge doesn't always come with fire. Sometimes it's just peace. Silence can destroy or heal. It depends on who you are when the noise stops. I used to think volume proved love. It proved I was tired. Discipline speaks clearer. The clock runs on time. Keys rest in the bowl. The folder says filed. Morning light draws a square on a clean table. That's where my answer lives. I didn't win by shouting. I won by choosing what to fund with breath. Honest work, sleep, coffee for one made well, a back that stands. I left doors undramatized and walked forward. If you wait for revenge, you miss the better sound, the exhale you can trust. For me, it wasn't revenge, it was freedom. If silence has ever saved you, say so. Tell me what it cost and what it gave back. Comment, silence. Follow Cheating Exposed and share this with someone who needs the quiet. Some endings burn out. The good ones hold. I'm choosing the one that holds.